Hello and welcome everybody, I'm Bavarian and this is Crusader Kings 3, and in the upcoming week I'm finally back here on the channel with a lot of mechanics, tutorial and of course roleplay driven videos. I'm very excited for those, I hope so are you, and today I want to kick it off with an achievement speedrun guide. Yes, we are back with achievement speedrun guides, much like in Crusader Kings 2. Of course we have all of the achievements in CK2, I trust all of you have them in CK2 as well. Now let's start with CK3, slowly but steadily. Of course I'm waiting for the first patch here that I'm not certain, but apparently is only going to come out maybe in October. We'll see. We're going to do Frankokratia today. As a French Catholic, hold the Kingdom of Thessalonica without being vassalized to Byzantium. Now, I looked it up. I wanted to make sure that nobody had already done this, and nobody has done it outside of, playing like 150 years, which is considerably too long. The Wikipedia page says, hey, start as Hastin of Montagu and then, take over the kingdom, but I have noticed that there is a bunch of issues there because you have to spend so much money on creating the duchies, on creating the kingdoms, that oftentimes Hastin will die early. Hastin will be in a situation where RNG doesn't allow you to actually get the achievement, and that is something that my plan doesn't include. So let's just jump into this and let me show you how you can get Frankokratia without even moving a finger, because everything we do is guaranteed. So how does it actually work? We're going to play as Vasileios of the Byzantine Empire, a very strong position. He already holds everything that we need. It's just that he is the Byzantine Empire, which we explicitly are not allowed to be. I would recommend setting the diplomatic range to restricted so that the Carlings keep their hands outside of your empire. If they do marry into your vassals, just make sure that the future Byzantine Empire, but more of that in a second, isn't married to them. And with that being said, focus on stewardship, make some money. We're going to spend a lot of time just making money because it is a very quiet time. And the first thing that you want to do is essentially divorce your wife, because it makes sense, right? You need a wife in your court that is French and Catholic. I gave him a vassal, I believe, in Kherson, so in Crimea. I gave him one of our children, our daughter, to educate her so that he would like us more. You get +5 opinion, up to 15 per month when somebody educates your child. And with that out of the way, I can finally divorce this woman and then marry a French Catholic woman. I will also go ahead and arrest our youngest son. We have 2 sons, a primary heir and a secondary heir, and what I can already tell you, when you play this, make sure that you only ever have your primary son. Get rid of any other son that you happen to get. Listen, it's not the end of the world, just get rid of them, okay? Make sure that they will not be around. As you can see, I also just surrendered the war to the Aghlabites, because who cares about Sicily at the end of the day? And there you go, the divorce is through, our son is being imprisoned, and I am marrying a French lady. I would recommend, since we don't really care and don't want more children, I would recommend sorting it after the age and marrying whoever is the oldest lady. You really just need somebody to educate your son, and that can be any French Catholic lady. Whether they are 60 or 16, it does not actually matter. Now, once that is done, we, of course, get rid of our secondary son, because that secondary son is in the way. More on that in a second. And we're just going to go on, educate our primary heir as a Catholic French, and then we're just going to gather some money. Again, what I care for in this guide is that this is guaranteed. This is a very easily guaranteed playthrough right here, whereas again with Hastin there are a bunch of opportunities to mess things up. There essentially are no opportunities to mess things up in this one. So, what's the plan? Why do I only want one son? This is a daughter, so she gets to live, lucky for her. I only want one son because the way feudal elective works, and we're going to use feudal elective to get rid of the Byzantine Empire, the way it works, essentially, if you have a family member, for example your second son, that gets more votes than your primary heir, that second son will become your primary heir even if you lose the election, making it so that potentially we could end up being an Orthodox Greek person when we need and want to be a Catholic French person. This is why we get rid of any other sons, so that nobody can even get the idea of voting for them. I know it sounds cruel, but if it works, right? So, we have one son here, that son is doing fine, and as you can see right here, he is now also Catholic and French. That is absolutely beautiful. You can see me try to divorce this woman immediately, because she has done her part, but I'll be honest with you, if she got any more sons, then I would have just gotten rid of, well, those sons, but it was only daughters, so good for her, very lucky, and here is our only primary heir. Now at this point, shift to the diplomacy focus. I already did that a bit earlier. Again, do it after the first 5 years right away, and then pick up the title creation cost perk that makes it so that titles can be created easier for, I believe, -20%. And this is very good because we we need to create a bunch of titles. You can see it right here, we need a ton of kingdoms. Why we need those is also very easy to explain. If you have these kingdoms, they will go via our realm succession law. Again, the title succession law that we're going to be using for the empire is feudal elective, but our realm succession law is primogeniture. And all of these kingdoms will stay with us if we lose the election. This way, we can stay in control of practically everything of the Byzantine Empire without being the Byzantine Emperor, and that is, again, the entire plan, because this means that we can make it so that we can become the King of Thessalonica as a Catholic Frenchman. And there you go, I just picked up that perk that I mentioned earlier, and now it's time to create practically infinite kingdom titles. I believe it is 6 titles, right? It's like Thessalonica, it's Anatolia, there's so many in there. Now, all of these kingdom titles, again, very important because they make it so that the vassals will stay with you once you lose the Byzantine Empire. What we do after this is a bit more difficile, so let me explain this. Essentially, you want to go to feudal elective and you want to lose the election with your son being your primary heir. Again, if you have more children, then there is a high chance that somebody's going to vote for a secondary child because that child will be Greek and Orthodox, getting rid of your primary heir. You don't want that, so get rid of any other child. You lose the election, but you don't lose it by dying. You can see I just get some siege units here so that I can do that quicker. You lose the election via abdicating. So you can see it right here, I will now introduce the feudal elective law, and of course with that feudal elective law we will be in a position of executing this exact plan. As long as we are not winning the election, and somebody in our realm is winning the election. I was looking around here, I created a very weak Duke of Crete, and I was thinking if he were to take over, I should have a much easier time to take down the Byzantine Empire right after, but nobody voted for him, so I couldn't actually do this. I just went with the AI, I think, yeah, this is the guy that we're going to go with. That guy will become the new emperor, albeit just in name. But effectively, you want to lose the election and you want your son to be the highest voted family member in the election despite losing it, right? So the guy that wins is not of our family, and then the highest family member that gets voted on is our son. That's the entire plan. That's how this entire thing works. Now, what you can see right here is I try to imprison people, and what I want for them is to rebel. I got 2 people to not rebel against me. If you start a rebellion war, a tyranny war like this, and you give up, you step down, all that happens, and here you can see I'm just checking the results, making sure that my son is my primary heir before you give up. All that happens, if you surrender immediately, is just you become your son. You just abdicate. We were losing the elections, and now we are Thessalonica inside of the Byzantine Empire. So essentially you start to imprison people and somebody will rebel against you, and then by surrendering you just abdicate. Now we are in a beautiful position. We're 16 years old, so you gotta wait until he's 16, sadly. I wish it could work otherwise. And then we're going to start an independence faction. Now if you're lucky, I'm not lucky, then you will just gain independence here and immediately get the wonderful result. That result, of course, being the achievement. Now, in this case, this didn't happen. Very upsetting, because we will, of course, win the war. Look at this. I mean, we are the Byzantine Empire. You can barely tell the people that aren't rebelling anymore. The problem with this is the Byzantine Empire has a unique decision that lets him get Constantinople, and there you go, he just did it. And he can even do it when you are actively rebelling against him, which is insanely tiresome, but it is what it is. Again, if the independence faction makes it so that you immediately just become independent, even better, because then he can't do it. If you are actually independent, he can't just revoke it from you. But if that doesn't happen and it is a civil war, he will get Constantinople. And him getting Constantinople is tiresome just because it stretches out the war just a tiny little bit, but it's not the end of the world. And essentially, here's how it works. You will rebel via the independence faction, which is fine. You get a truce after this. And once you have this truce, of course, you need to be able to go to war again. But that is not a problem, because your father, who we were until now, who stepped down, happens to have a claim on Constantinople. That is how it happens, because he had to step down. He gets a claim on the capital right there, and we can simply push that claim. Make sure that you actually select that and not the Byzantine Empire as a whole. And, hey, let's break a truce. It's not really that big a deal. They are, of course, not prepared. They are not strong enough. I think I actually do have to hire some mercenaries here. I'm pretty sure they had some sort of ally. But essentially, the idea is you can't really lose this because we had so much money from just waiting around early on. And you just need to take them down. Now, again, it is a privileged position if you get them to not have a civil war. If you just get the independence faction to fire, he will never press the decision for Constantinople, and you don't have to go to the war twice. But even if you do, as you can see, it is very, very simple. And there you go. Frankokratia. In how many years? I can't even tell. That's like, I want to say 18 years in 18 years. Very, very nice. It is a guaranteed thing, which is what I am the most happy about. It's probably possible quicker with Hastine, but this one is guaranteed. You cannot lose it. And that's the dream. This one is something that gives you a 0.2% achievement for practically no risk. No reloading, no cheesing, no cheating. It's just you using the turn mechanic. Very nice. Now, of course, as always, I would like to thank the members of the channel, namely the Barons, the Counts, and the Dukes. Thank you all for supporting the channel. I have many more videos such as this one to come, but also in the upcoming week, primarily we will have some roleplay, some mechanic stuff, and some tutorial guides. I did a deep dive into warfare and into development, and I'm very excited to tell you what I learned about it. See you later. Alligator.